the godfather of sports radio.
It is a final.
Here is Tony Bruno.
Tony Bruno. Beautiful.
Hello there, children. Welcome to the epicenter of science, the city of Philadelphia. Tony Bruno, Harry Mays, Miss Robin, the whole gang is in the house. We're all tested. We've all taken our temperatures. Some requested not the one that we use every day. Some were requesting the other thermometers, Harry
rectal.
Mays. Yeah, we didn't go rectal today. I don't have any alcohol. And I didn't want to waste vodka on the rectal thermometer. But anyway, we're all on. Robin's the one who's closest to being in the danger zone. 99.3. Anything over 100, we'd have to shut down the show and quarantine for 2 weeks in Orlando, Florida.
All right.
Inside the...
sit by a fire for about 5 minutes then, Robin.
Tony, as you know, I always run hot.
Oh, geez. There she is right now, peeling out here. Sunday! I'm sorry, I was watching Memphis Street Outlaws last night.
Is that a new show for you?
It's not a new show. No, I flip by that. It's funny. These guys in Memphis all go down there and drag race illegally and bet a lot of money on it.
On Beale Street?
No, it's not on Beale Street. No, it's like in the woods somewhere. It's a bunch of rednecks. Come on, Harry. You know how them rednecks are down there in Memphis, Tennessee. What's the matter you have?
I was down there last year around this time.
Were you walking in Memphis?
No. We actually didn't get into Center City, Memphis. We went to the golf tournament with Nick Cale.
No.
Yeah.
Just for that, Harry, even though it's early into the show, I have to give you the first.
That's all right.
Anyway, we got a lot of stuff today. We got NFL news, the countdown. Now, Harry, it's not my style to criticize. You did not have an NFL free agent tracker countdown clock on your list. You got the NFL, you got the NBA, you got college football.
Right.
Yeah, you got the Masters.
Yeah.
How did you not have an NFL countdown clock to the end of the period where you can sign your player and to franchise players getting long-term deals, which is coming up very, very soon?
I only count down to live action sports.
That's live action.
No, it's not. Like if you want to rip me for not having a clock for training camp for football, that's valid. Because that's
I'm just busting your chop. The reason I'm saying that is because last night.
The day.
But no, last night I got
taken a picture of
ESPN
it.
on, and ESPN has a countdown clock to the end of the period where you can sign your franchise players.
It's 4:00 today, Eastern time. Yes,
but they had a 20-plus hours, and that's when you left. Right after the show, and after we left,
yeah,
I said, "Well, how the hell did Harry not have a countdown clock to the whole free agent period situation or the franchise situation?"
I saw that because I was watching Get Up the other day in the morning.
You're the guy.
While I was on the treadmill. Yeah, and I noticed the countdown clock, and I'm like, wow.
Where do we draw the line for countdown clocks?
There is no line. You can anything you want. You can count down to the next to March. Actually, I have a countdown clock to March 1st of 2021. When we will be allowed here in the capital of scientific research, Philadelphia, where that'll be the next time we'll be allowed to go out and have a barbecue.
Right.
Maybe
gather. We can gather.
We can't go out and get a permit to do like a block party or close the streets if you got a kid who's got you can't rent those big rubber, bumpy, jumpy houses. Those
bounce
things.
Houses.
Bounce houses, yes.
Yeah. Bounce with me.
Bounce with me, baby. Not the women on trampolines that back in the day on the Man Show. The Juggies.
Love the Juggies.
That's good knowledge right there. How did I know Harry would remember the Juggies, the chicks on and Jimmy Kimmel parlayed that into a national nighttime show.
I know.
Unbelievable.
How long ago was that?
That was probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Was it that long?
Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't do that today.
Yeah, and Adam Carolla's got a big book out and a big podcast.
Oh,
all
absolutely.
The time. He's a big success, too.
Who says that tawdry sexism doesn't pay?
I agree.
Not anymore, though, Harry. But anyway, we're so proud here in Philadelphia because that's where we are. It's tax day. It's July 15th. It's Christian Austin's birthday today. Robin's son's celebrating a birthday today.
How old?
28.
Wow.
Damn.
I know.
What does that
say about Robin? I don't even know how that's possible.
I tell you, I wouldn't even want to go back to 28 today.
Really?
No.
If you could change now and say, I want to go back to that one age where I think my life was at its absolute peak. And a lot of people, you could be at your absolute peak now. I'm not saying you get older and you lose everything.
Yeah.
But, you always think about when I was 35, I was doing this. Obviously, when you get older, your body's not the same way. You're getting aches and pains. I'm going to say 35. That's when I was at my peak. I thought I was hitting it on all cylinders. I had 3 kids, family, big house. I didn't have the white picket fence, though. I didn't have that. But I did have an AR-15 to protect the house just in case a couple of punks came by. So I always had that in my...
So 35 was the peak good old days for you?
Yeah, because people are going to say, 20. When you're 21, you're a dope.
Yeah, right,
Let's be honest. What 21-year-old is, like, lucid and smart? There are some. I'm not condemning
when you're
everybody.
in your 20s.
I definitely wasn't at 21.
Yeah, when you're,
I was married at 21.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
me
my
too.
God.
When you're
I hate
in your
to do it
20s,
to you.
though, you
I got to give you one of those.
What are you talking about?
I mean, come on, man.
My wife was 19. I was 21. My wife was 19 when we got married.
When I was 21.
It was a
the problem is that when you're in your 20s, you absolutely 100% are convinced
that you know everything.
That you know
Yes.
everything.
Oh, yeah.
No, not when
you're right about that.
No, when you're 16. when your kid is 16, that's the age, and I've learned this from having 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, that's when they know more than you do. When they turn, say, "Oh, come on, Dad. I know more than you. What do you know?" And in some cases, they're right, like technology and stuff.
Yeah.
And my one son, my oldest son, AJ, he's an ITT expert for the IRS.
Right.
And now he definitely knows more than you.
So he knew more math than you when
he's
he
great
was
at math.
16, right?
Yeah, and I suck at math. So that just proves
we all know, Tony.
But I'm saying just because your kids are good at math doesn't mean you're good at math. Or just because you suck at math doesn't mean your kids are going to suck at math.
Right.
It's what they like.
And they
math,
have
you
proven
can
that.
learn math.
Yeah.
Or you can just
math.
use a calculator. Who knows math anymore? You go into a store with your mask on, of course.
Sure.
Do you think the cash register, the people working there know what change to make? No, the
No.
machine tells them right there. You give them a 20, your bill $7.18. They don't have to figure out how much change to give you like I used to do when I worked in stores and pull the pennies out and
Yeah,
get it out.
do this test. It's hysterical. Like if it's something costs $3.55, give them $5.55, and then
It
they're
blows
like,
their mind.
They're like,
Yeah.
wait,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
I like
And-
doing that and then telling them how much to
Yeah.
give me. I'm like, yeah, that'll be $1.
Anyway, enough about ripping young
it freaks
people,
them
Harry.
out.
Because, we were all young once. We got some young people in here. We got the guy on the couch, Conlon Farrell. How old are you, bro?
I was just going to say that. I'm 23 right now, so I feel like I'm on the uptick of reaching my peak.
Yeah, you're going to learn every day.
every day.
I'm learning now. I'm 68. I learn every day. When you decide that you know everything and you want to stop learning, that's when you're an asshole. Other than that, if you don't want to learn, if you think you know it all.
Does that go in the log? Or
Yeah,
is
that-
No,
that,
not at all.
Just put it down.
You can say that. What's the matter with you people?
Mark it down.
I'm getting getting canceled by my own staff. Wait, whose name is on this show? Is Joe C's name on this show?
No.
Is this the Joe C show?
I thought it was on the Joe Eunice show. No,
Yeah.
I signed up for the wrong show. I'm sorry.
I don't think I was in my peak in my 30s. I think that I would like to be able to have that time back. I think that mentally and everything, I'm at my peak now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like I know I'm a little bit more humble. I feel more comfortable with myself, but I wish I had the time back from my 30s.
I just wish my body wasn't so broken down.
Yeah.
We're battered performers.
Yeah.
Harry. Everybody feels that way. You know what? I'm happy about being alive again.
Yeah.
Being alive in the capital.
Were you dead?
No, I mean, I'm dead inside, unfortunately, but but here we are.
You're an empty vessel.
I am an empty vessel. Sort of like our mayor and a lot of politicians who just make edicts based on no science. I'm about science, Harry.
Right,
That's what we
right.
always do here. I wear masks. I'm tired of people lecturing me. I know. I wear a mask when I go outside. Not when I walk alone and there's nobody around. I went into the bank. I wore a mask. I went into Popeyes. So don't lecture me on wearing a mask, all right? I'm an adult. Jesus. But here's the thing, Harry. Mm-hmm. Here in Philadelphia, we are at the epicenter of stupidity. And, I'm not involved in politics. Everybody can talk about the presidential election. You're going to vote in a couple of months. So you're going to worry about, oh, no, why are you worried about the mayor? Shouldn't you be worrying about the White House? No, there's an election in a couple of months. I worry about what affects my neighborhood, what affects the city that I grew up in and love. And when you have a mayor who is now a national embarrassment, and I'm proud to be somebody who has led the charge to expose this guy, Harry.
Yeah, you've been beating that drum for a
years,
long time.
Years. I'm not
Yeah.
a jump on the
Yeah.
bandwagon Johnny come
No.
lately. And what he did yesterday was the absolute pinnacle of incompetence, negligence, and stupidity. And now all of a sudden, guess what happened today, Harry? Because yesterday I retweeted all of his edicts, his edicts about no large gatherings, and then all of a sudden people started saying, and we were on this show yesterday. What about the Eagles? Because again,
Right.
I don't tell fans where to go, what not to go, what's safe and what's not safe. But you look around the NFL, Harry, and what are NFL franchises in pretty much every city that I've seen so far announcing? Again, providing there is a season.
Right, some sort of limited capacity for fans of maybe 10% of the building,
Exactly.
whatever it is.
Exactly. So this isn't me saying that fans should go into stadiums. This is what the league is preparing to do. And if they can socially distance people with masks and they're not sitting right next to each other in a stadium and they think it's safe and they have the ways to get in, who is a mayor of a city to come out and say, no, you're not allowed. I'm the mayor, damn it. And not only you are not allowed to go to Eagles games, you're not allowed to have parades. You're not allowed to have block parties. You're not allowed to do anything. Go to church until I say so. And you know when I say so? March 1st, 2021. Now, for all these people who are, oh, it's about science. The science. I listen to science. You tell me one doctor, one epidemiologist, one anybody who's even went to a science class and broken a Bunsen burner and a beaker who actually can say that everything's going to be okay by March 1st of 2021, Harry.
I cut open a frog once.
Did you do that?
In science class.
I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore.
Probably not.
No, they're
Yeah.
not. That's
No,
murder.
I think they still do
No,
that.
I don't. I think they've cut back on
I
that.
operated on a pig.
Yeah, I did.
Well, I've worked on pigs my whole life, Harry. Come on, sometimes you got to settle. You
Have
know
you
what I'm saying?
taken a gallbladder out with a?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did
we
my
had to-
own once. I
Yeah.
did self-surgery. You know, I had a
Pop a
kidney.
trocar
I had a
in there.
kidney stone, and it was painful. I finally just made a little incision, and I reached in and pulled it out. Bam!
I did
Great
that in-
salad surgery over there.
Was that in anatomy class
What?
that you did that?
No, that was-
biology.
Oh,
Biology.
Biology
Oh, I had
was the frog. The pig was when I was selling medical.
wow.
instruments.
Yeah.
So biology was the frog for
I
me,
did-
and anatomy was the pig.
So I did a pig and a frog, and maybe one other thing in biology. I just remember I had it right before lunch, so all I could smell was formaldehyde. Like that's
Oh,
all
yeah,
I could
that's
taste
lovely.
when I ate
Bruh,
lunch. It was-
bruh,
Yeah,
It's a good time.
that gets in the back of your throat.
Yeah.
bruh. We got a good show coming up today. I will not rip the NBA today.
No.
But I will rip the WNBA today.
All right.
The WNBA finally in the crosshairs
You are
of
an
this program.
equal opportunity ripper.
And it's
Tony.
not about ripping, it's about calling out injustices. I'm looking for justice. That's what everybody claims they want, justice. I want justice for all. And that's what this show is about. That and goofing off and taking calls on What Up Wednesday from Jose.
What up?
That's
Taking
right.
calls from everybody out there.
Including another one of your former partners.
And to me, I will explain to you why the next guest is one of the most influential and most talented and most prepared people in the history of sports radio.
Is that right?
He will join us next on the show. We'll have a Nick Cannon update. And we'll have the WNBA story that will blow your mind. So stick around. We're just getting started. It is a What Up Wednesday, Harry.
What up?
And Harry may have some golf picks to give away later on.
Possibly.
So stick around for that. Tony Bruno, Harry Mays, Miss Robin, the whole crew here on SiriusXM 211, SB Nation Radio, Twitch TV, pretty much anywhere you can be. We are there for you.
Alrighty. I believe Chuck is in the waiting room already. Let's see.
The waiting room. What is it, doctor's office? Beaker.
I did my thing on Zoom today, too.
Did you do it?
Where is he? Chuck, can you hear me? Hello?
I don't see him.
know.
What's going on with that monitor over there, Robin?
Okay. Asking him to start the video. And it would help if I actually took it off of mute. Hold on. Okay. Now can you hear me? Whoops. Still not hearing him. Chuck?
I don't hear anything.
No.
Why is that monitor not on, though, on the Zoom screen?
Hold on,
So
Tony.
I can see Chuck and hear him.
Join audio. Join. Hello?
Hello there.
Oh, there we are. Okay.
I don't see him, but I hear him. Hey, Chuck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how you doing? Video? Where are we going?
Yeah,
video?
we're doing video. Hang on.
Okay.
Is this camera on me?
Hang
There
on.
he is. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There he is. Now, you're up in Providence, right?
Yeah, that area. Yeah, up in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Do you know
Rhode Island.
Do you know Harry Mays?
No.
I know who he is.
We haven't had the pleasure of meeting, though.
Of course I do. Harry, how you doing?
Good to see
And
you,
Robin,
Chuck.
the brains of the outfit.
Absolutely. I'm just a front man. As you know, Chuck. So your organization is called evenfield.org. That's the one we're going to promote, right? Absolutely.
So is this working?
Yes, I hear you. You hear me?
I just need to get, hang on just a second. I just need to get the Zoom going on.
Very proposition, I admit.
Why is this? Ah, there we go. Hold on. This is why I started up in the commercial break so that I can get it. Da-da-da-da. Okay, now, Chuck, you can see Tony, right?
Sure.
Okay,
Can you see me now?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a scary thing, too. But
Is there any way you can tilt your camera down just a little bit, Chuck?
Sure.
Get a little bit more of you in there. Okay, perfect.
Just a little bit more. No,
That's
that's
perfect.
good right there.
That's perfect right there.
Hold it right there. Freeze it right there, as they say on replays.
All right. So we have about 3 minutes until we come back from break. A little bit less.
So, Tony, you happy about the decision for your Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, they haven't made the
Fans?
decision yet.
Well,
You mean to shut it
I thought
down?
They had made the decision that
They can't play?
not Phillies. I meant Eagles.
Yeah, no, we'll discuss that because I've been visibly shaken over that decision
Of
by our
course you
mayor.
have.
Because our mayor has decided that the Eagles could be the only team in the NFL. But we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about a lot of different stuff. And anything you want to talk about, Jeff.
Welcome back to the Tony Bruno Show with Harry Mays on SiriusXM 211.
It is a What Up Wednesday. Having fun as always. That's first and foremost, Harry Mays. But then again, informing as well. We only bring on the best minds that understand this business. And one of the best to ever do it. And the reason why he was the very first employee hired at ESPN Radio.
The first.
He was hired before Tony Bruno, before Keith Olbermann. The first man that they said, we've got to get him here to build this thing. The most prepared man in the history of sports. The great Chuck Wilson, coming from his gilded mansion right off the Newport coast as he's ready to sail out on his yacht off of Providence,
doing,
Rhode
man?
Island. How are you, Chuck Wilson?
Oh, it's good to connect with you. And it is a strange time we're living in, isn't it?
Absolutely, but that doesn't, Rhode Island is beautiful. You've been up there, right? In New
Oh,
England.
yeah. My sister lives up near.
Oh, your sister? I thought she lived in Florida.
Well, she lives in Connecticut, but near Mystic and all that area, so it's very close to Rhode Island.
Yeah, it's close, but it's still not Rhode Island.
No.
Harry. Come on. That's Chuck Wilson built that state. He still rules it right now. Chuck, great to talk to you, man. A lot of stuff to talk about, of course. I'm not going to talk about science here. The thing about the Eagles, and by the way, the mayor today has clarified his edict about shutting down everything in Philadelphia till March 1st of 2021, Chuck. Now, I know you're not a scientist. I'm not a scientist. But I haven't seen any doctors, epidemiologists, or anybody say that we will not be safe to go back outside with crowds of more than 50 people until March 1st of 2021. And if you've heard that, please let me know. And who was that person who came up with that?
Yeah, I don't know why we're trying to look that far into the future. I don't think anybody really knows that far in the future what's going to be happening. So why is the mayor doing this? What's the advantage?
I have no idea. I just look for simple. I'm a simple guy, Chuck. I look for simple solutions.
You run the city for crying out loud.
No, trust me. If I was running this city, they wouldn't be in the shape. But I'm not I don't want to be a politician. A lot of people get on radio shows, and their whole goal is, I'm going to parlay this into a political career. I have no desire to do that, so I don't want to replace the mayor. I would never even put myself in that position. The problem with running for politics, Chuck, is that you always, once you get in, if you do, you owe too many people. And so when you owe people because of favors to get in, then you really can't have a clear vision of what you really want to do, what's best for the people. But enough about that. So that's the thing that bugs people here. And now one of the original thoughts was, and the mayor flat out said, no large, because the Eagles, the stadium, city runs it. So the city determines what the capacities are for engagement. So 50 people is the limit. And Chuck, the Patriots, all the NFL teams so far, of course, predicated on there being a season, have come up with some plans on what number of people will safely be allowed to come into the buildings. So you would think the Philadelphia Eagles, who are a pretty good team, would also have those plans in place. But the mayor now has passed the buck, saying that, we want to clarify this. The Eagles they're the ones who are going to tell their fans and their season ticket holders what they're going to do. So after telling everybody the Eagles couldn't play football and it's a national headline, now all of a sudden he's passing the buck, saying that it's up to the Eagles to determine what they're going to do.
I just have no idea what the advantages of coming out so far in advance to try to say, what will be safe at that time, what won't be safe. The only thing we know right now is that wearing masks and social distancing does make a difference.
Yep.
And in areas that are really being hit hard by the virus, it makes sense to try to clamp down a little bit. The extent to which everybody can have arguments over, but there are also some areas of the country that are very low risk right now. And in those areas, we're going to be able to ramp up and do some things that we want to do more quickly. And we ought to just be guided by the science here. And the whole thing that this has become so politicized is ridiculous.
Chuck
It's a medical issue. This isn't about politics.
You know what it is, though, Chuck? Well, first and foremost,
It's an outrage.
Exactly. Harry?
Well, I mean, where do you stand on this, Chuck? Are you one of these guys that's more optimistic when it comes to sports coming back in full, or are you one that, like us, like we vacillate? It's sort of almost day to day, where sometimes I'll come in here and I'm pumped up. I can't wait. I'm counting down. I got a countdown clock on my phone for the NBA, and I'm looking forward to everything starting. And then the next day I'll hear something else on TV or radio that puts me in a depression, saying that, and nothing's ever going to come back. They're
exactly, we're all doing. You're right. I think we're all going in that roller coaster.
Yeah. We are. Look, this is really difficult because it's been different in different parts of the country, and unfortunately, in areas that haven't really made it a priority and had people that were willing to go along with wearing masks and social distancing, we've seen these flare-ups. The thing I think that concerns me a little bit is, early on, guys, we got this impression that this was only going to impact old people, and that if we could find ways to protect old people, and so, we're not positive that that's the case. We've got some younger people that are also having some really tough medical issues, and you just want to be able to keep it under control. There's no way to completely stop it, but we can bring it under control. My feeling on sports has been, in the areas that have been hardest hit, I just don't see where the close contact sports, football, rugby, lacrosse, so I just don't see in those hard hit areas how you can return to playing those sports in the real near future until you could get some control on the effect of the virus in that area. The SEC, for instance, I just don't see how, each time they try to bring teams together, you saw what happened in North Carolina. You end up with half the team or more picking up the virus. And, so it's a really difficult situation. I think that over time we may be able to socially distance, wear masks, go to these stadiums in smaller numbers. Outdoors obviously appears to be a whole lot safer than indoors. The ventilation system indoors are going to have to be changed and stuff, but it's just going to have to be done in smart ways, and it can't just be guided by what our desire is. We all want to get back to playing, we have to do it in a way that's safe and sustainable.
The great Chuck Wilson up in Providence in an undisclosed location. But it's a small state, so we could probably try to figure out where he is. No, we're not going to give out your address, Chuck, but you have been the king of Rhode Island, obviously in Providence radio for all those years, but you're not doing radio anymore, right? I know you're doing a lot of charity stuff, and you got your own organization called evenfield.org, because Chuck's always been about sportsmanship. You know, one of the things we always used to do at ESPN, whenever there was some sort of an incident with athletes fighting or NBA brawls and things of that nature, hockey brawls, Chuck would always say, where's the sportsmanship? And that became an ongoing theme, right, Chuck? And we do it to this day. Where's the sportsmanship?
Yes. So he likes the Lady Bing trophy in hockey,
he is.
right?
Chuck will get the Lady Bing of sports broadcasting every single year.
Oh, yeah. And I listen, I get kidded for it. It's fine. You know, I just believe in it. Look, we've got to return to have more trust and competitive integrity. I just think it's important. The way you win matters. We've trademarked that. The way you win matters, because the way you do everything in life matters. The way you treat other people, the way you achieve goals, and so on. And I want to get back to a time where it's, you know, kids don't think just about what they can and can't do, but what they ought to do. And it's not going to be what I think they ought to do or what you think they ought to do, but what they think they ought to do. But it ought to be through the filter of, you know, doing what's really best and what's truthful and so on. So the organization Even Field, we're trying to promote integrity, life skills, and leadership through sports.
No, and it's brilliant, and that's what you've been committing your life to because it's been a while now, right? How many years since you've been on radio, Chuck?
Wow, started in the late 70s.
But I mean, since you've been off now, because we all moved on.
Since your 2013.
Yeah, so it's
2013.
been 7 years since you've done a because we had Peter Brown on the other day, another one of our buddies from ESPN radio days, and he said he hasn't worked for a couple years now, and he's sitting in Chicago with a young family, and he's just like, you know what? Nobody wants to hire me, and I don't know if I even want to do it anymore if I have to move around, especially during these times.
Yeah. Well, look, it's difficult. It's just, you know how important this whole area has been to me. And I just want to see youth sports become much more developmental and get away from just everything being about winning at really early ages. There's plenty of time to put the focus on the wins and losses. I want to see kids have opportunities to develop. Tony, you know, Harry, we're losing so many kids by the age of 13 or 14. 3 out of every 4 kids are leaving sports. And, you know, we don't need to lose all these kids, but adults are making these decisions that, well, this kid can play and this kid can't play. And you're making these decisions about kids who haven't even reached puberty yet. And so all of those late developing players are behind the 8 ball. A lot of them leave sports. Then they're walking down the hall in high school. They're 6'5", and the basketball coach is going, wow. And the kids say, nah, I gave up on basketball. You know, I used to be small and you know, they didn't want to play me and so on. To me, it ought to be much more about development, about learning sports, learning to play the right way, learning how to be a good teammate, and all the things that are the psychological part of it, the mental part of sports that eventually is going to make a huge difference, even with the elite players, Tony, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, the further up you go in ability, the narrower are the physical differences. What are the big difference makers at that point is the character and then the habits that you formed that make you somebody that makes other people better on a team.
The great Chuck Wilson talking sports and talking sportsmanship, and his organization again is evenfield.org. All right, Chuck, now we got the bubble down there. Your thoughts on the NBA and the snitch line. Apparently that snitch line's been ringing off the hook as people are calling out other players who are violating the quarantine areas and going outside. How many of these things are we going to see in the next couple of weeks down there in Orlando, Chuck?
Well, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. We've already seen this in all places across the country. You know, if you try to cheat the virus, you're going to lose, okay? That's just the way that works. If you try to cheat it, you try not to respect it, then you're bringing it back inside. You bring it back inside, and we're not going to have the NBA. So the only real blowback I see for the NBA, even if they make this work, is this whole issue about testing and the fact that, you know, the league can get immediate testing and so on. And an awful lot of people who want it around the country can't. Yep. And I do think there's a hit to the NBA that way. But the bubble concept, I suppose, can work in maybe a short run for a while. But I don't know if you're going to keep young guys penned up in the bubble. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, we were in a bubble in our little studio up in Bristol, Connecticut. That was really being in a bubble. The room was smaller than the studio down here. We were in there for 7 hours a night.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's so funny too, right? We're working at a quote unquote network, and we're in like a 7x7 room with no windows
and no doors.
Outside.
It sounded like a broom closet.
It was. I mean, the ESPN radio just launched, and they finally built studios. But in the beginning, it was literally like a box that you would see, like a storage unit. But I mean, it had chairs and tables in it. But technically, it was a box.
So that outdoor shot that they'll show if you're watching like Sports Center or Get Up or whatever of the campus, like none of that was there back then, right?
Well, the first big part was, but the studios were on the fourth floor where all the TV people worked in cubicles. But we were in a corner in a little box, and then it took a while before they started building studios because that was the beginning of ESPN Radio in 1992.
Now, Chuck, this is Miss Robin. I have one little thing to add there of this fictitious bubble that Tony's talking about back in the good old days, because we've heard stories about the Bruno Bash in the hotel room afterwards.
That was a bubble. That was guys after sitting in a hotel room with a bathtub full of beer and kibitzing after the show. Because 7 hours of talking
Didn't
sports.
Didn't you talk enough?
No, but we didn't talk about the show and what segment was good. That was in the meeting after our 7-hour show with our bosses, right, Chuck? We'd have a meeting after 7 hours to run down which segments were good and which segments didn't work.
Wow.
Exactly. And the funniest thing was some of the regulars we had have on, they would say, this person, they were just being themselves. That's and Tony would be on the floor trying to sleep. He'd have a couple of Jolt Colas after that. And I don't know how you did it on that Sunday night of then getting out of your fetal position on the floor, driving all the way to Philadelphia doing morning drive. My hat's always been off to you. I can't believe you did that.
I can't either, Chuck, and neither can my family because I had a young family then, and I was going back and forth, going on that. And that drive is a tedious drive because, 84 through Connecticut, over the George Washington Bridge, and then on the New Jersey Turnpike in winter when, it's just a monotonous drive.
Yeah.
And you're that's why I would drink 3 Jolt Colas just to stay awake and get back to the studio in Center City, Philly, and then do another show at 5:30 a.m. to 10, and then go home and sleep from noon until noon the next day.
With Angelo, another Rhode Island guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The funny thing about it is that the meetings afterward were just a typical thing of what happens at a network, right? Because, you have to have a post-meeting. You just got off the air doing 7 hours. There really isn't a whole lot to say, but you've got to be able to say that you had a post-production meeting so that you could discuss everybody's exhausted. Poor Tony's got to get up and travel to Philadelphia. Eventually, they did away with them, and we ended up with really nice studios eventually. But the funny thing was just how early on those studios were just so small. In fact, so small that with 3 hosts in there, a host had to get up each time an update guy had to come in and do an update.
Exactly, yeah.
That's kind of like down here.
There are only 3 chairs, and the middle chair was the host, the third host.
Oh, so you had to give up his chair.
And then of course, the great update guys, whether it was Dan Davis, the legendary Dan Davis.
Kestershire, was he back
No,
there?
that was Mark. This is way before Mark Kestershire. Who else do we have in there? We had Bob Picozzi.
Bob Picozzi. Okay.
Bob Picozzi was terrific.
Absolutely. Now we had so many great people, Chuck, and it was a lot of fun. And to this day, a lot of people say, that ESPN Radio weekend show, Tony Bruno, it was Chuck Wilson, Keith Olbermann, and Tony Bruno. People grew up because we were on everywhere. And back then, there weren't a lot of networks available. People would listen to that show knowing they'd get the updates and the interviews from the locker rooms and that stuff. We took no phone calls from listeners.
No phone calls.
No
7
phone
hours,
calls.
no phone calls.
And just going live to a game, screaming it's a final when a game was over, then going afterwards and get great interviews. So it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad I was a part of it.
The hard thing, though, was Tony Bruno every single week was talking about how great Troy Aikman is, that he's probably the greatest quarterback in the history of the game. Every week.
But you know what's interesting about that, Chuck? Every time I met Troy Aikman after that or talked to him, he would always say, "I loved you on the radio. You're my favorite sports talk radio host," because he knew it wasn't hatred of human beings.
Right.
It was just sports.
Right.
It's like Yankee fans and Red Sox fans.
Exactly.
And we would just have fun. And so I did that stuff, and the Syracuse fans didn't like me because I said they would never make it to the national championship game that year, and then they went on and won the national championship, and I got hammered for that. But I wasn't trying to get people irritated. I was just trying to get people to pay attention. That's what it's all about, Harry.
You probably gave them motivation to win.
I
Tony.
did. I think Jim Boeheim and those guys should have sent me a national championship ring.
Yeah,
exactly.
I never had more fun in radio in 30 some odd years than working with Tony Bruno as his wingman, because the idea of doing 7 hours is pretty unbelievable. But if Tony's sitting next to you, you're going to have fun, and we did.
Harry can't tolerate 3 hours a day with me.
But Tony said before we brought you on, Chuck, that you were the most prepared man in sports radio sports history. And he said that you would bring in reams of paper with all kinds of notes, and you'd cut out the columns and the stuff out of the newspapers and all that stuff. What did Tony bring to the table as far as prep?
Tony Bruno brought his intellect, his wit, his humor.
Because now he takes copious notes. He's got a legal pad over here with it's filled to top to bottom
Every day. I still take this seriously. I could just mail it and say, "Oh, I've been doing this for 50 years. What do I need to prepare?" You have to prepare. But Chuck is the most. And remember, back then, Chuck, Chuck would go to the newsstand and buy like the Boston Globe, the New York Times, and cut out columnists, and that's where we would see what people were talking about around the country. We were in Connecticut.
Right.
We had to talk about the whole country, not just local Connecticut news.
Yeah, because this was like pre-personal computer days, pre-internet, pre-all that.
Exactly. So, again, we weren't revolutionaries. We were just guys, and Chuck always did this, and to this day, he's the most prepared guy. But you did get accused of not just destroying trees, Chuck, but forests. Do you feel bad for the deforestation that you caused in your years at ESPN Radio?
I do, my friend. I plead guilty. Trying to make amends.
All right, Chuck, last thing, and that, of course, is we talked about the NBA, but the NFL, because there's a lot of talk about, they can't do it. I saw the talk about putting actually shield in the helmets
from Oakley,
the Oakley shield that would keep players from spitting on each other accidentally or on purpose, because they're going to be tackling. You're going to tackle guys, and there's going to be contact. And even if you have that, if you have the shield, and then when you're on the sidelines, you don't have to worry about he's fewer than 6 feet away. So I understand. Football is going to be tough to do, but I think there's enough stuff, gloves, cleaning the ball, cleaning everything else, having the guys clean their hands every time they go off the field. I think football is taking a lot of bad hits as people are saying it's not possible to play. We're seeing rugby, Australian rules football being played in other countries. You can't get any more physical and close than those sports.
But the key is getting the virus under control. These other countries that have gone to return school and everything else have gotten the virus under control. If we get the virus under control so it's not just a raging epidemic, I think we're going to be able to do a lot of things to return. But we've got to get the thing under control. I think the NFL, for this year, it's going to be really, really difficult. I think the shield idea would help a lot. But I think it's really tough right now for the fall.
So do you think there will be NFL football? We know college is already making decisions to shut it down. The NFL hasn't. We're seeing a lot of conferences. Do you think there will be an NFL season? Chuck, I have to put you on the hot seat.
I think the money is so immense that they're going to find a way to play. So, yes, I think they'll play.
And we know you're a big baseball fan, Chuck. Do you like the 60-game thing, and do you think that'll work?
Baseball blew it because they should have come back much earlier than they did. If they'd come back, and they would have owned July 4th, they would have owned early on. I think they made and they turned off a lot of fans. Fans always come back, but baseball, it's more problematic, I think, for the popularity of it long term.
I agree. We all agree. We remember the 94 season when the strike happened. We had John Sterling on a couple of weeks ago when we brought him into the studio during that strike year, remember? And John Sterling came up and sat in with us on ESPN Radio because there was no baseball to do. So we're not going to have that, at least. We're not going to have a shutdown. Who knows about next year and the year after that, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully it happens, and if it doesn't, we're not going to sit here and say they should, coulda, shoulda, woulda. We know that they have to be safe. That's all that matters. Everyone can agree with that. Nobody's saying they should be forcibly sent back. So we all agree that you have to be safe, and we have to get the virus. That's why we're safe down here, Chuck. We're not wearing masks. Well, Harry wears one every once in a while.
No.
But we have our temperature meters here, Harry.
Yeah.
Chuck, see, we got one of these. We always take our temperature. Let me check myself right now. 98.4, Chuck. So I am safe to continue broadcast activity.
Yeah, but it's more about your blood pressure.
I have one of those.
He's got one of those too.
Wait.
He's got the pulse ox thing.
I got the pulse ox too, Chuck. This is science.
There you go.
This show's based on science, not just hyperbole. So let me put this on and see where I am right now. Let's see what my oxygen intake is.
We should bring the cuff downstairs though, so you can take
Blood
your actual
pressure
blood
cuff?
pressure cuff.
No,
Yeah,
this
but
is
yesterday he had a rant, and he put that on, and he
Yes.
was at like 74.
Yeah.
So now I'm 98% oxygenated.
Right.
And my pulse rate is 80.
80. That's not bad.
No.
That's not bad, right, Chuck? You give me
Nope,
permission,
not bad at
Chuck
all.
Wilson, to continue and finish today's program on this Wednesday. Am I mentally or physically and, more importantly, aerobically and mentally capable of continuing this show today, huh? And Chuck Wilson, I will ask you that.
Mentally?
Yes.
Let's see that was so hard. We only threw that.
All right, this thing doesn't gauge mental acuity.
Why do you have
No,
to do that?
this doesn't
Just leave
measure.
it physically. We would have been okay.
Well, no, I'm talking about all the vitals. My vitals are good. That's all that matters.
Yes.
If you can breathe and talk, you can do this, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they say at Harry's Broadcasting
That's
School.
right. Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Harry said if
Yeah.
you can breathe, you can talk, and you can write a check, you too can enter the wonderful world of broadcasting. Chuck, great to talk to you, my friend. We got
You be well, Tony. Take care, Harry. And Miss Robin, remember, she's the brains of the outfit, Tony. Never forget that.
Absolutely. She does. She reminds me of it every single day, Chuck. Thank you,
Thanks,
buddy.
Chuck.
Let's give Chuck Wilson, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Chuck, what's your website?
Evenfield.org.
Evenfield.org. Are you on Twitter? If you eschewed social media?
Yep. You just Chuck Wilson and underscore with EF.
And just really quick, this is for children ages, or is this for anybody?
Well, it's for anybody. I mean, because we're working a lot with coaches and with adults on the best way for them to help their kids get the most out of the youth sports experience. But overall, we're trying to work with the adults who are involved with kids U13.
Now, is Chuck following you on Twitter?
I don't know. I
Yes,
got to
he
check.
is.
He is?
Of course I am.
Of
Come
course,
on, Harry.
he is.
I'm just
I don't
asking.
have to. I don't have to
Come
ask
on,
Chuck
Harry.
Wilson to follow me. We go back. We go back 28 years. Come on, Harry.
This
What's the matter with you, man?
It's
Let me
an
give you one.
outrage.
It is an outrage.
Wait a
Even
minute, that's
President
your line.
Obama says it.
It's an outrage.
Chuck,
He asked everybody that we bring on this show if he's following him
that's
on
important.
Twitter.
That's an important thing. The
Well, I
social
wanted to
media
make sure
matters.
he's following
I know
you.
Chuck's following me. He's Chuck Wilson, for God's sake. Chuck, God bless you, man. We'll talk to you soon. I hope.
absolutely.
There he is, Chuck Wilson. Coming right up. We have open lines, too. You want to talk and comment? 215-462-TONY is the number. 215-462-TONY. And the Strapper line, 24/7, available for you. Leave a recorded message. Do we have any good Strapper line calls today? Yes, we do. Ryan Rothstein says yes.
I've heard Jeff in D.C. is on the Strapper line.
Oh, he's got to be with
Yeah.
all the Washington football talk. We got that all coming up next, so stick around. On Tax Day, July 15th, and What Up Wednesday.
What up?
Okay, this is a reminder. Just say goodbye to everybody that is not on Twitch. So everybody that's on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, this is the time. Make the switch
This is the
to
time.
from the rest of the show, all the rest of the interviews and hilarity and hijinks and nonsense that comes out of these two men's mouth, you will not be able to hear it unless you are on SiriusXM or on twitch.tv/Tony Bruno Show Live. And you will only be able to join the chat room in the Twitch. So make the switch and see you on the Twitch side.
By the way,